Greetings. It's Monday, June the 30th, 2025. I'm Thomas Caldwell of the Aurelian Column, and this is the Monday Morning Report. A tragic and criminal shooting in northern Idaho near the town of Coeur d'Alene. 2 firefighters are dead. They were shot in what was apparently an ambush set on a mountainside. Fire was set. Firefighters show up. Gunfire erupts. 2 are dead. 1 is in the hospital in life-threatening condition. No word on other injuries. This is, it's hard to put your head around this. The gunman is dead. He was either shot by police or took his own life. That's a little bit fuzzy at the moment. His body was recovered. As of this recording, he has not yet been identified. Why would anyone want to go after firefighters? Just insanity? Because that's the only explanation. Even firefighters in North Korea or Iran are considered heroes by world standards. I mean, what do they do except put out fires and save people from the perils of being burned alive? No word on what the story is about this. It's still going through investigations, and of course there was a fire involved, so no one knows what evidence was destroyed. They did recover the body, as I said, and they will identify this individual. Whatever his reason, it can't be sane. It's a terrible thing. Firefighters are always risking their lives day in and day out, just like police officers. Except nobody goes after firefighters. Nobody goes after them. Police officers they're in a combat zone from the moment they come on duty, but those that save us from flames are sacrosanct and should be treated as such. It's a horrible tragedy, but more important, it's a horrible crime. It needs to be checked out and investigated. It will be interesting to see what the whole story is when the whole story comes out. Meanwhile, speaking of insanity, our friends in Iran don't just want to see death to America. It seems now they want to see death to America's leaders and those of other Western nations that have offended them or attacked their country or otherwise don't meet their standards. One of their religious leaders has issued a fatwa. You know what that is? That's when they declare someone needs to be put to death. Someone who is a name I'm not going to bother pronouncing, and he goes by the title of Grand Ayatollah as opposed to a lower form of Ayatollah, I guess. Does everybody remember what they did with the author Salman Rushdie way back when for writing a book? It was a book called The Satanic Verses, which frankly I found kind of a waste of time, and I didn't find it interesting, let alone offensive. But, well, the Iranian government did, and they put out a bounty on the man. There was apparently money attached to it. No news if this fatwa against Donald Trump and everybody else has money attached to it. But that lasted a long time, and Mr. Rushdie was eventually stabbed at a public event many, many decades later. Not that long ago. He survived, but was scarred for life. I think he lost the sight in one of his eyes. You're dealing with religious fanatics. You cannot negotiate with them or reason with them. You can only kill them. And that's something that we're going to be learning the hard way. Now, Donald Trump, he's in the crosshairs all the time. I mean, American presidents are always very well protected. They drive around in a limousine that's actually a tank. But what about the lower-level politicians? Especially here in the United States, members of Congress or the Senate, they usually don't have bodyguards. That's not a secret. That's just well known. Some do, depending on their position or how much of a threat they're under, but the average mayor of a small American town, even governors don't have very tight protection. Are they in the crosshairs of Iran as well? I would imagine they are. I mean, it's pretty easy to walk into the office of a congressman or a congresswoman or a senator somewhere in their field office, and there's usually not an armed guard nearby. So this is what we've gotten ourselves into, folks. Remember, when a country gets into a fight especially with something as insane as the Islamic Republic of Iran, you can't just stop halfway, which is what's apparently happened. It'll give them time to recover. It will give them time to get their breath, get their friends together, rebuild, and then come back at you. I promise you that unless the Islamic Republic of Iran is done away with, we are going to be on the receiving end of all sorts of craziness, and people are going to die as a result of it. This is just a fact. It's not something that is a prediction. It's obvious. The worst mistake that was made recently was when the Islamic Republic of Iran was on the ropes. Whether or not the attack started by Israel was justified. But when they were on the ropes, the fact that they were not knocked down and out of the fight, if history is anything to look at, we're going to be dealing with things. We didn't finish the Korean War, and we didn't attack North Korea when we could have in the 1990s. No one talks about that, but when they were talking about building a bomb, we didn't go after them then. Now look what we're dealing with. Not only a nuclear-armed North Korea, but one that has intercontinental ballistic missiles, both in fact and in development. When your enemy's down, you don't just kick them, you finish them. Now, speaking of political fights, Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill is going through the congressional process. And, well, I don't know what the odds are in Vegas about whether or not it's going to pass, but a lot of dust is being kicked up over this one. Lots of fighting, as well as misinformation and guessing and lots of conjecture as to what the thing's all about. Does it destroy Medicaid? Does it only just get rid of waste? Well, the problem with American legislation is it tends to be out to win some sort of literary prize at some point. This particular bill I was reading is nearly 1,000 pages long. Nearly 1,000 pages. It's ridiculous. That takes a long time for people to go through. Even if you're a fast reader, that's going to take more than a day if you just do nothing but sit down and read it. Speed readers could probably go through it faster, but that's going to take a lot of time. And if it's in legalese and you got to go back and refer to what they're talking about, what are they referring to? Because a lot of these bills refer to previous laws that have been passed, some many years earlier. Well, what are we going to do about it? Who knows what's in that bill, really? I remember a story once about some people that were putting some legislation together in the wee hours of the morning up on Capitol Hill. I think it was in a congressman's office. And everybody was hungry, so they did what most people on Capitol Hill do when they're working late hours, is they called out for food, and someone took down an order for a pizza of who wanted what on what section, and, you want tomatoes, you want anchovies, you want extra cheese, etc. And someone wrote that down. And then it was found out later when the bill was passed that the pizza order had been included in the legislation and no one noticed. I kid you not, that's a true story. I think they did have to do some sort of amendment to get rid of the Domino's order, but this just shows how way out of control everything is. People are passing laws and they don't even know what's in there. And to anyone rational, that's just crazy. Maybe we need to have a law that laws have to be put together in a certain way, but maybe that won't work either. Elon Musk is angry again, his ex-buddy President Trump, over this thing. He might have had a chance to actually read it. Now, there's an old saying that an elephant is a horse by committee, but when the U.S. Congress decides to do something, they don't make elephants. They make, well, rather strange monsters that look like they crawled out of science fiction movies. This is something to watch, folks. It's going to be interesting, but it's another reason why the U.S. is in such a mess. People come up with these laws, nobody knows what's on them, nobody knows what's in them, and the lawyers continue to get rich over sorting it all out. Oh, and speaking of injustice, justice, and that sort of thing, do you remember the 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony? Remember him? The black kid who stabbed the white kid to death at a Texas high school track meet a while ago? Claimed it was self-defense. Nobody buys that for even a fraction of a second. Well, he and his family raised more than $500,000 for his legal defense online. I mean, they put out an appeal to help us with this terrible injustice they talked about. Well, it seems they blew the money on all sorts of things except lawyers. I was reading they bought a new house. They had all sorts of fancy things they bought with that $500,000. Now the judge in the case has declared that young Mr. Anthony is in indigent status. That's the fancy name for meaning he's broke and has no money to afford a lawyer. So the taxpayers of Texas will be picking up his legal bills as his family enjoys their new home and toy collection that probably has a lot of interesting items in it. All courtesy of people that wanted to help him. You can't make this up, can you? In other news, the United States is now moving into full wartime production for ammunition. This is not something being talked about in the headlines, but they're really ramping up production of bullets, especially for small arms, things like AR-15s, M16s, 9mm pistol ammo. I've heard reports that the Lake City ammunition plant near Independence, Missouri, is in full production. They are at full steam, 110%. That's where Americans make most of their bullets for the U.S. Army. It's done under contract with Remington, I believe. They're producing all sorts of stuff, and they're doing a lot of it, which means something could be going on. That place has been around since 1941, actually. It got into production. It was set up one of several plants at the time, but it went into production in 1941. Has been going pretty much all the time since, except for just after World War II. But when they start making an awful lot of bullets, you know that they're planning on using them for something. Now, there's other reports that other munition plants around the United States are increasing their output. That's not exactly easy to confirm because all these places tend to be very heavily guarded, and they're making all sorts of interesting devices that are usually only found in science fiction movies until they become real. So perhaps we are getting ready for something big. Just like we were in the summer of 1941, as people were looking forward to the 4th of July. And winter of 1941 was so far away. And of course, the people in power were going to see to it that the U.S. didn't get dragged into any foreign entanglements. That didn't work out too well, did it? This 4th of July is going to be coming up soon. It'll be hitting on Friday, which will be nice, a nice long weekend with it. Most people will be taking several days off this week. But it's a good time not just to go shoot off firecrackers, which might be illegal where you live, be careful of that, or spending time with the family or barbecuing. It might be a good idea to go back and read the good old-fashioned U.S. Constitution and talk to your friends and neighbors about it, because that's what it's all about. The Declaration of Independence is what we celebrate, really, and you know, it's kind of interesting. Very few people ever read that document anymore. They read a few lines of it. It's a nice little custom to sit down and have a little gathering, and everybody reads a paragraph or so. Some radio people did that some years ago. It sounded pretty cool. Most people just don't even know what the document is about. They don't read any of the founding documents. They don't know about the articles of the Constitution, the various amendments we've had, and some we've had to repeal. It's something that we're supposed to be celebrating. Oh, and by the way, the official date, it might be the 4th of July, but the date the United States did declare independence was actually July the 2nd. That's when they passed it. That's when they voted for it. The next day, everything was being handled at the printer, and then on July 4th, they made the announcement. Maybe we should have 3 days where we contemplate this. July the 2nd is technically the day we became an independent country, or at least declared we were going to be. That's when the fight really began, and it was one heck of a fight. A lot of people died. A lot of people died in that war, more than we like to understand these days or even remember. We have anniversaries for a reason. We have holidays for a reason. Do a little bit of research this time and try to find out what this one's all about. It might be good guidance as we look into a very hot summer and a future that is quite questionable. That's it for today. If you appreciate my work, please like, subscribe, and share. Share with your friends and share with your enemies, unless they're people that want to see us dead. I can be reached at feedback@aureliancolumn.com. That's feedback@aureliancolumn.com. I'm up on X. My handle there is MICCAMPEN. That's MICCAMPEN. This podcast originates at Substack. My handle there is aureliancolumn.substack.com. Until we meet again, be good, be safe, be vigilant, and remember, clown world, the deep state, and all religious fanatics must be destroyed. Good day.